Hi, I'm Brian Rogers, and if you've never seen my face before, you're probably wondering, what the f is this thing? Okay, really quick recap for those of you who have never seen this channel before. This is a 2007 Sportster 1200 XL Low. I've challenged myself to build a show-winning Sportster board tracker for under $6,000, all in, including the bike. But for now, I'll do a quick recap. In the last video, we were mocking up the seat pan and doing some adjustments to the seat pan. I'll run the video of what it looks like now and how we got everything buttoned up. We also got the powder coat back. We've since put the forks back on the bike. We put the swing arm back on. We've got everything else on. And today we've got the air ride complete as well. So as you saw in the beginning of this video, it's got front and rear air ride. I don't know of any other Sportster. I'm sure there is somewhere, but I haven't seen any videos of another Sportster with front and rear air ride, especially not with 26-inch rims front and back. I had to stretch the swing arm. There's another video on that. And I had to do a rake kit and a triple tree, wide glide triple tree conversion on the front as well. Again, those are all in the previous videos. If this is the first time you've seen this channel, after you watch this video, go back and watch the other ones. And it'll start to make a lot better sense as to what I'm doing with this project. So here's today's video. It's completing the air ride. We go over in detail how we do all that. It's doing the seat pan, it's doing the front end, and it's basically reassembling everything back to a roller with an engine. So at this point, we're waiting on paint. Once that's done, next video. All right, well, I did some work off camera and it's the next day, and I wanted to show you guys what I came up with. I think I can make all this work, surprisingly. It's not ideal, but it will clear. So this bolt head on the bottom that holds the lower spring on for the seat is gonna be up a little bit too high. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tack weld it to the top of this pan and then shave off the bottom of the head so it sits down lower. But we actually do have, I don't know if you can see in there, but we do have enough clearance for the factory connector that piggybacks into this connector for the dyno jet for the power commander. So we do have clearance down here. It doesn't look like it, but there is. And I know there's gonna be some weight on this, but it has a little bit more downward movement. It's kind of hard to show it, but it's not totally sitting on top of the connector with all of its weight. So this is extremely good news. Now we can run the power commander. We don't have to sell anything. We don't have to do any of that. So we can modify this seat pan to make it work with what we've got. And I'm stoked on that. So what I'm gonna do now is pull all this back off, and I'm going to weld these studs in. I'm gonna patch up these holes that are in this pan that we don't need. And then I think I'm gonna paint this entire section gloss black. And also one last thing, we're gonna have to modify this bolt. It actually sits down a little bit too far. So no big deal. We're just gonna we have to cut the end of this bracket off where I've got it marked here. And then I have to install the nut on the seat and then just cut it off flush at the top of the bolt head. So this is kind of how our seat's gonna sit once all that's on there. And this will be back, but you see where it's hitting that. And I've already kind of lined it up without it sitting there, and it should clear just fine once we've got everything in there. And there will be, once we shave that bracket down, there will be plenty of room to sit on this and not have to worry about me bottoming out and smashing the computers, because that wouldn't be a good idea. Okay, well, as you saw in the video, the chain that I was originally putting on was an orange chain. I thought that would look cool with the paint that we're doing, but unfortunately it is the wrong pitch. They sent me the wrong one. It should have been a 530 chain, but they sent me a 525. So no big deal. We got the other chain to work for now. It was exactly the right length. We got it all tensioned up and everything. And we got the license plate mount on. So this is the original washer that went between the axle nut and the swing arm. But as you can see, the thickness of the swing arm bracket and this washer, you can kind of see that, I guess, is exactly the same or pretty close. So I was able to get the lock clip on there, and the license plate frame now acts as the new spacer. So everything is equally spaced out like it's supposed to be. But yeah, as you can see, man, golly, this thing is just phenomenal. I mean, it fits on there perfect. The brake line looks really good. I'll have to clean this all up, obviously really good, because Curtis's brand new powder coat doesn't look as good as the factory paint anymore. But, you know, a little bit of elbow grease, I can clean that up and make it look good. All right, well, we got the seat pan all mounted and put on there. This is just a piece of wood to keep the sparks from flying. But right now we're gonna hack off these rear fender struts. They're actually a part of the frame. I've been waiting to do this because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with the taillights. So we're gonna leave a little bit of a gap right here to have a mount access for the rear taillights. We basically have a roller at this point. As you can see, we've got the front all the way on. It's all bolted up, ready to go. We've got the rear all the way on. I did do some stuff off camera. I got the headlight mounted on. Let me know what you guys think about that. It's kind of a cool looking racer style, cafe racer style, bobber style headlight. Got the speedometer and everything mounted back on. We got some new grips and everything mounted. The front brake cylinder was leaking a little bit, the front master cylinder. So what I did was I've actually already rebuilt it. So we had, this is the little plunger that comes in there. I had to put a different plunger, different seals, and that's pretty much it. New spring, a new boot around the top of the plunger. So that's all boring stuff. I didn't want to bore you guys with that stuff. I mean, you know, there's plenty of videos showing you how to put on handlebars and stuff. See if I can do this little rig up here. Okay, so that's gonna be tail light, and then get in there. Come on, it's hard to do this in one hand. So that's tail light, and then there you go, blinker and brake light. Okay, got it. So that's tail light, and then blinker and brake light. Tail light, blinker and brake light. So there you go. Looks really awesome back there. I'll give you kind of a tail light look from behind the bike, and the other one's just kind of idle right now, but it'll look just like that one. Rock and roll. I love it. All right, so as you can see, we got this awesome orange chain on there. Everything lines up good. It looks really nice. I got the tension set. Everything looks good and straight on the chain. We've got the license plate bracket on. That was in the last video there. Then what else do we have? The seat still needs a little bit of work done to the seat before we get that totally buttoned up. We did get the headlight and the front turn signals. These are kind of cool. I'll show you them when I get them wired in. They're like a white DRL and then a orange turn signal. The only other thing we have to do is the air ride. So I got a little bit of the air ride started. This is just a temporary thing to move it up and down. I got to redo that. And I have to figure out a way to mount the compressor. So I don't really know where exactly to mount the compressor. I might mount it underneath the bottom of the bike, but I have to get it off the lift before we do that. But for now, for today, I'm gonna finish up the exhaust. I'm gonna crank it all. I'm not gonna crank it because I don't have the gas tank, but I'm gonna get the exhaust buttoned up. We're gonna get the chain and everything on, it's already on. And I might do a little bit of the wiring for the headlights and taillights. So let's get going. Guys, the exhaust is done. I am impartial about this exhaust. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. For those who didn't see the first video, this is the LAF, which stands for loud as crap, exhaust system from eBay. I want to say it was like 65 or 70 bucks. It wasn't that expensive. The black is like a It looks like it's been sprayed with like one of those like high temp oven paints or, you know, grill paints or something like that. I don't think it's Cerakoted or any of that stuff, but you know, they don't look terrible. If you really look close, you can kind of see where the, I guess like the tightness doesn't really match up. I spent a little while trying to get everything, you know, matched up as close as I could, and you know, it's just okay. I'm not in love with them, but for the money and the budget we have for this build, they'll work for now. What I'm probably going to do is run them until they start to pit a little bit, or you know, flake off the paint or whatever, and then I'm probably going to get like a nice set of like Vance & Hines. I like the Vance & Hines that run out and kind of come back a little bit, like I think they call them the short shots, but in the black with a little chrome tip on them. I think they look really awesome. We also got our orange chain on. I bought, this is actually the third chain I had to buy because I screwed up and ordered the wrong one the first time, had to send it back, and then I screwed up again and ordered too short of a chain the second time, had to send it back, and I finally got the right chain in, and it's going to look cool whenever the paint's done, so stay tuned. Oh, by the way, if you guys have noticed in the video, this is where the paint stuff used to sit, and it is gone, so it is in process. Other than the paint, the only other thing I have to do, which we'll go over today, is do the wiring for the rear turn signals and brake lights and tail lights. We have to finish the seat pan. I'm going to, where I had a notch here for the harness for the ECUs, I'm gonna put some nice like black fender trim around here, just to kind of clean it up a little bit. Front turn signal wiring, these are the turn signals. I showed you guys that already. This is the headlight, we've already seen that. And I have to wire those in, and then it's just air ride. Once I get the air ride done, it's done. I did rebuild the brake cylinder, and I ran new brake lines. This is a nice like chrome little banjo fitting here, and then it runs down this way with like a black nylon line down to the brake caliper down here, and it all looks really nice and clean. It's bled, it's holding pressure, it's good to go. So as you can see, we've got the bike off the lift, and it is on the ground under its own two legs, so to speak. What I've done is temporarily off camera, I've done a few things. I've plumbed the wiring for the air ride to the rear shocks here, and I've ran it on the other side, and I've met it up into this little Y connector right here. So I only did that because I needed the bike to be able to be up off the ground under and standing where this tab wasn't laying against the tire. I had to do some wiring for the taillights and all that, but here's where we are today. So these are the manual paddle valves that we're going to be using for the build, and as you can see, they're on this little bracket, and what I'll do is I'll throw a little 3D print time-lapse deal of me designing and 3D printing this bracket. So this bracket, what it does, and you can see the little SMU designs right here, it's a little bonus, but as you can see, that is, it's screwed into the little bezel, this little plastic bezel, and it's got some pretty good, it's holding pretty good. It's kind of close to the exhaust, but here's what I want you guys to look at before you judge it. This is carbon fiber filament, and yes, it's plastic based. But look at this. This is also plastic base, and this is way closer. I mean, I can barely fit my finger between here, and I've got a lot more room here between the fins of the engine and the side of the plastic for the air ride paddle switches. Also, if you're not familiar with Victory motorcycles that have the air ride the same way as this, with the front and rear, they also have this same double paddle valve, and it's set up exactly in the same area right here by the engine. So when you're reaching down, you can easily get to it, but it's not too close to the engine to where it burns you. And again, this does get hot, yes, but it's not going to get hot to the point where it melts anything. I'm fairly confident in that. So anyway, that's for the air ride. What this little collection of relays is here is for the rear tail lights. And what I've done is I've wired them all up. However, these are just a high and low beam LED, and they do not have integrated brake lights. So what I had to do was make a series of relays and diodes. You can see the little diodes in here too, that actually pass current through only in certain situations. But what that does is allows for regular tail lights, it allows for brake lights, and it also allows for, like, that's just a left turn signal, for example, and it is blinking fast. I am going to put a resistor in there to keep it from blinking fast. But the problem is, without running that series of relays, we couldn't do this and this at the same time. So what that series of relays did was it allows us to have right, left, or right turn signals and brake lights at the same time. I did that off camera. It was kind of boring, but here's the front too. These are kind of cool. I am going to change the headlight to an LED headlight. It's already ordered, it's already on the way, but they're kind of cool. These are just super bright, like DRL LEDs wrap around the triple tree forks, and they kind of switch to orange amber blinkers, and then they switch back whenever you're done to the LEDs, the running LEDs. So those are super cool. But again, I wired all that up off camera. Everything kind of runs back to here. You can see how clean everything is. I used all the factory connectors, all the factory harness, as much as I could. We also ran the brake line, which is a nice nylon brake line. I think I covered a little bit of that in the last episode, but this is the brake line kit that we use. It's a Russell Pro System 2 is what it's called. This is not DOT approved, and I think the only reason for that is the nylon tubing, but it is what it is. It's going to be fine for what we're using it for. So again, that brings us to the air ride system. Here's the air pump that we're going to use. It's an Airmaxxx 180, and it is rated for, I think, 120 psi, which will be perfect for this system. This is the tank we're going to use. It's a little bit small, but all this is a paintball tank. It's a 12-ounce paintball tank. It's a little bit small, and it's probably going to have to run the compressor a couple times to fill it up to get the bike all the way off the ground, but it is faster than just wiring it to the compressor itself, and it should give us that fast air up and down versus just running it off the compressor. We're going to run this tank. I think where I'm going to put it is underneath here on the frame, so we should have plenty of ground clearance still when we're up in the riding position, but it'll actually kind of sit close to here. I'll make sure that it does not clear or does not interfere with this brake lever linkage, but it's going to sit somewhere right here, and we're going to use this bracket and this bracket to mount it. All right, so let's talk about this bracket for a second. What this bracket is a fire extinguisher mount for a side-by-side. So on a side-by-side, if you had a small fire extinguisher, you would use this mount to run it to the roll cage, and this would clamp onto a roll cage. So since obviously we're not running the side-by-side, we're gonna pretend like the bottom of the frame, it's a circular tube frame, so we're gonna pretend like that would be the roll cage for a side-by-side, and that's where we're gonna mount the tank. So again, this is the mount we're gonna use. This for a fire extinguisher. I am concerned a little bit with this, but I have an idea to run like kind of a backup plan just in case it were to fall off or something. So obviously this is meant to be a quick release, but once you get these mounts mounted onto the frame, that's not going to go anywhere. The issue I have is with these pieces of rubber right here. So what I might do for now is just keep the rubber, but I want to maybe make like a nylon strap or maybe like a metal strap or something that goes here instead, or some sort of like hose clamp design where it clamps on there more secure than just this rubber, because I feel like this rubber will deteriorate over time. But for now, we're just going to run it this way, and that's going to be the way that it's going to be run, and it should be fine. All right, guys, next day here, and I actually got a lot done last night off camera, to the point where it's just about done. So what I did was I was looking for a place to mount the compressor, and the only place I could really find that would be okay was under the bike, so you can kind of see it tucked underneath there. We've got the tank here, we've got the 3/8 line run there, and it splits underneath in there somewhere where it goes back to the compressor and then comes up to this side, and it follows these lines up here, and then it runs up to this pressure switch. So this pressure switch is a 90 psi on and 120 psi off. So what that means is whenever the tank pressure hits 120 psi, it cuts off. And whenever it drops below 90, it cuts back on until it reaches back to that 120 psi mark. These are all the relays and everything. I don't have the side cover back from paint, so I'm not sure if all this is going to fit. I might have to rearrange some stuff, and this is going to be tucked underneath there. This will be tucked under, but I might need to rearrange some stuff to make it work, but I won't know until I get everything back from paint. So which is kind of why I was just temporarily mocking it up anyway. If it works, then it'll be more of a permanent mock-up. But the rear air line's coming from back here, and it kind of ties into the harness for the taillights and everything. And then it splits off into this, and then that goes to the delivery of the 2 valves down here. So right now everything's hooked up. I tested it, everything works. The compressor turns on like it's supposed to, and we've got front and rear air ride. As you can see, it's up on the rear itself. We got bag inflation there, and it is up on the front as well here too. So I let it sit overnight, and everything is holding pressure like it's supposed to. There's nothing that's leaked down, so there it is. It's good. The one thing I do want to wait on to get the tank is how to run this front. This is not staying like this. This is just kind of like temporary to test it out and everything, obviously. But I think I might even have to go down to a 5/16 line instead of 1/4 inch. It might be a little bit too thick for steering, but we'll see. It's gonna be fine for now. So, and it works great. Also, I got a nice little present from the DMV. So my original plate, I wanted it to say Evil Twin with a T instead of a 2, but apparently somebody else is cooler than I am and already has that license plate in South Carolina. So here's mine. It's Evil Twin, and I kind of like it better because the 2 kind of stands for the 2 26-inch wheels, and it's also cool because A, it's a twin 26, B, it's a twin cylinder engine, and C3, I don't know why I'm counting. But the third fact is I'm an actual twin myself. I have a twin brother. Again, if you go back and see some of the other videos, you'll see his motorcycle. He's into bikes too. So, Evil Twin, that's the official name of this bike. So this will be the second to last video in this build series. The next video, we're gonna put the paint back on, and we're actually gonna ride this thing. And we're gonna see what it's like, and it's gonna be awesome. So that's it, guys. We're just waiting for paint, and then we're ready to roll and ride this bike down the road and see what it does. If you want to get an inside scoop on what's going on before the videos come out to YouTube, follow me on Instagram. It's _Brian Rogers. I'll put a little overlay right here of what it is in case you need to see it. But thanks again for watching. The next one's going to be awesome. Please subscribe if you haven't already. You're not going to want to miss the next one. We're going to take this thing for a ride. I'm going to take you guys along with me too.